Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Ever since the creation of time, man has looked up into the sky and dreamed of flying the sky above himself. Man has always watched the soaring eagle fly in the sky and wondered, could he himself be able to fly as freely as the bird in the sky could someday? One time, two brothers had the same very big dream as well. Their names were Orville and Wilbert Wright. Wilbur Wright, born April 16, 1867 in Millville, Indiana, died May 30th, 1912 at the age of 45 years old. Orville Wright, born August 19, 1871 in Dayton, Ohio, died January 30th, 1948 at the age of 76 years old. So, the big question was, can man really fly someday? Then another question was this as well. Could man take off like the birds and land safely back on Earth as well? One day, man would soon realize his dream and fly like the birds in the sky. December 17th, 1903, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Wright brothers' first flight. Flight lasted 12 seconds and flew 20 feet in the air, and the distance was 120 feet long. Man could now fly. Like the birds in the sky. The biggest problem that Orville Wright experienced was this. He had a difficult time trying to control the front rudder. Hey Chuck, can you believe what I just saw?
Yeah, man is flying like a bird in the sky.
I just can't believe my eyes.
I'm out of here, man.
Man not only had dreams of flying one day in the sky, but he had a higher dream as well. The moon. Science fiction writers like Jules Verne had inspired us all to look up and dream one day of setting man's foot on the moon. Writers Jules Verne, author of From the Earth to the Moon, 1865. But there would be also other writers as well who would inspire the human race about other worlds. H.G. Wells, born September 21st, 1866, died August 13th, 1946, at the age of 76 years old, a British writer. H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds. This was published in 1898. This time, it was the Martians who would travel to Earth in sealers and attack the Earthlings. Man would eventually create his own rocket to fly someday. This one man who would become involved in building rockets was Robert H. Goddard, born October 5th, 1882, died August 10th, 1945, at the age of 62 years old. Goddard's occupation: professor, rocket scientist, physicist, and inventor. Goddard's first tested liquid fuel engine in November 1923. Now, man was beginning to reach his goals even more. A space center is named in honor of this rocket scientist. With the advent of World War I, man began to fly in fighter airplanes high above the clouds. Here are a couple of pictures of what the World War I airplanes looked like. Dogfights between the good and bad guy became a common thing during World War I in the sky. Then, with the advent of World War II, man began to fly higher and faster. Man had indeed entered the new era of flying like a bird in the sky. Hey Chuck, it's time for a PSA.
What's that?
Public service announcement from Community Television.
You mean time for a short break?
You got it. Get yourself a warm cup of coffee or a pop. And we will be right back with more of Beyond Our Galaxy.
I'm out of here, man.
Sputnik 1, first satellite to be launched into Earth's orbit by the Russians. The definition of a satellite, therefore, is this: an object that has been placed around the Earth by human effort. Man had now entered into a new age. Man was now able to send space satellites into orbit around the Earth. The Americans, however, were determined to come back and enter the space race as well. Telstar. Telstar 1 launched on July 10, 1962. Telstar 2 launched May 7, 1963. Telstar 1 satellite had accomplished many firsts for the Americans. Telstar 1 had broadcasted the first television pictures, the first live transatlantic television feed. And also successfully relayed the first telephone calls and fax images. In the next picture, one will be able to see many different rockets the U.S. used during the space program's early days to put satellites into space. Note, the middle rocket in the front launched the two Telstar satellites. Eventually, Dr. Wernher von Braun, who helped put the Americans into the race to space. Dr. Wernher von Braun, born March 23, 1912, died June 16, 1977, at the age of 65, rocket scientist. Dr. Wernher von Braun was also known as the Rocket Man. The United States was able to place different kinds of satellites into Earth orbit. Weather satellites. Weather satellites help to warn humans on Earth of bad weather approaching. Military satellites. These satellites help warn of potential threats outside our borders. Communication satellites. Communication satellites lets us talk with our friends and relatives on our phones and cell phones. So, just how important is our space program? Take away the communications satellite and you can't talk with your family and friends. Take away the weather satellite and you might miss that tornado. So now you know just how important space satellites really are. Satellites circle the Earth in these 4 different kind of ways. Circular orbit, elliptical orbit, hyperbolic orbit, parabolic orbit. Here are some examples of these shapes the satellites use. Circular orbit. An elliptical orbit. Note the dark lines. A hyperbolic orbit. Note the outer line. A parabolic orbit. Note the way the baseball is thrown. Here are some pictures of the 3 different kinds of altitudes that satellites fly above the Earth. A low Earth orbit satellite. A middle altitude satellite. A high altitude satellite. Space satellites are kept tracked by radio dishes like the one in the next picture. To date, there has been some 6,578 satellites that have been launched into space. Some 50 different countries are involved with space satellites today. So remember, when you go to sleep at night, that satellite somewhere up there is keeping watch over you tonight. Hey, Chuck!
I know.
Know what, Chuck?
It's time for another public service announcement from your local community television station.
Where are you going, Chuck?
To get a pop from the fridge, man.
Hey Chuck, we'll be right back with more of Beyond Our Galaxy.
I know.
Hey, I'm Ted from GRTV, and I'm here to make a show about how to put a show on GRTV. All you got to do is have a tape, or a DVD, or a flash drive with your video on it, and you bring it down here to GRTV. We're at 711 Bridge Street. It's the second floor of the Bridge Street Library. Come on up. All you got to do is grab a form here, GRTV application for Cablecast. I already filled this one out. It's got my name of the show, length of the show, all real basic stuff about the show. And then you want to read through this contract. It's got some basic legal obligation stuff. Sign and date at the bottom, and then you want to put your contact info so we can reach you, your phone number, your email address, your whatever you've got to fill out for that, and then fill out a little survey on the back. And all you got to do is bring it in, hand it in to Liz, and you're done. That's it. You're done, son.
Woo! You're done, son. I like that. I'm a dork. I like that. Okay, well, that was fun. Okay.
All right.
You think that was good?
I think that was good.
Welcome back to the rest of this show called Beyond Our Galaxy. On this last part of the show, we will be looking at space stations above the Earth. Ever since a man broke the sound barrier, he has been able to rise above his own planet. Man has been able to live long days in space in environments called space stations. Here is Chuck Yeager with his plane that broke the sound barrier, the glamorous Glennis. The sound barrier was broken at speeds up to Mach 1. Man had proven that he could live in an environment beyond his own. Skylab was launched on this type of Saturn V rocket. Man can now live in space for numerous days in a space station. Here are some pictures of Skylab space station that existed between 1973 and 1979. The Russians had launched their own space station in Earth's orbit as well. Mir Space Station was launched into space on February 22, 1986. Mir in Russian means peace. Here are a couple pictures of Mir. Here is a U.S. space shuttle stocked with myrrh. On July 1997, the Russians had guided the Mir station back down to Earth. The Mir space station had crashed into the Pacific Ocean safely as it disintegrated through the Earth's atmosphere. At last, the world had finally come together to create the next space station called the International Space Station. Space shuttle approaching the International Space Station. Indeed, ever since the beginning of creation, man has reached for goals higher than himself. To go courageously beyond our galaxy.